Turns out Kamala Harris's announcement yesterday not to run for California governor was really just half an announcement. Today, we got the other half. She's going to write a book. And she made a TikTok video because for some reason, that's what people, I guess, do these days.
Everyone thinks you've been kicking back, drinking margaritas on the beach. But really, you've been hard at work writing a book, meeting with leaders, thinking about the future of our country. Who said that?
Hard to imagine after watching that why she lost, but her first postseason election interview will be with Stephen Colbert, the now canceled late-night host. There is a joke here about a woman who lost an election and a late-night comedian who lost his job. But I'm not that good at jokes. We'll leave that to George Will, NewsNation senior political contributor, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist. I got you to chuckle with that.
That's the thing. Can you see Charles Dickens doing a TikTok video for David Copperfield?
No, actually, it's hard to come up with. I guess what I can't understand is yesterday we did give her a little bit of credit for having the self-awareness that she was going to lose the California governor's race. And then she completely gives that up with a TikTok video that proves every reason why she lost the election and has no chance in politics.
And what about the publisher? What publisher thinks there's an appetite for a book about this? 107 Days That Shook the World? What? One of the most famous books of the 20th century, written by an American named John Reed, was about the Russian Revolution. It's called 10 Days That Shook the World. This would be 107 days that put the world to sleep?
It is bewildering. Well, look, there's going to be Democratic donors, I guess, or somebody who's going to buy the book. But I think it brings up a much bigger question, which is where is the Democratic Party headed? And I think we both agree it's not headed towards Kamala Harris.
It's not toward Kamala Harris, and it's got to quit recycling old candidates. Cuomo in New York, the electorate took a look at him and said, we'd rather have a Democratic socialist than this. We had one Clinton, then we had a second Clinton run for president. We had Al Gore, the son of a senator. We had one Bush become president, another Bush become president, and a third Bush try to become president. How can we enrich the candidate pool without going over and over and over these, particularly because we all know Kamala Harris was picked to be vice president. Her only claim on running for president was that she'd been vice president. She was only vice president because Joe Biden, in his desperation, having lost everything before the South Carolina primary, says, okay, I'll pick a black female running mate.
And there were only a couple. It's difficult to understand why you'd think that after her running for president, where she didn't even make it to Iowa because she didn't make it to the caucuses, much less out of Iowa, and then lost to Donald Trump in 2024, she would think the third time is my charm. This is interesting, and I think it may say a little bit about where the country is. J.D. Vance in the lead for 2028. I can't believe we're talking about 2028. I apologize. Against Pete Buttigieg, Vance leads by 1 point. Against AOC, Vance leads by 3. Against Gavin Newsom, Vance leads by 3 as well. What do we take from this, from everybody who says how terribly Donald Trump is doing?
Name recognition, first of all. People at least know the name J.D. Vance. Although, wouldn't it be interesting to see a poll how many Americans know the name of the vice president?
I think that would scare both you and I if it was here. But you have to get, I think there's something deeper about that poll. We pick it back up. I take your point at both levels, but if people viscerally hated everything that Donald Trump was doing, the Democrats should have a lot higher number, shouldn't they?
That's right. But they don't like a lot of what Donald Trump's doing, but they just don't like what the Democratic Party is. But if the Democrats have a lick of sense, they're going to look at some people outside the box. I went down to Kentucky recently, to Frankfort, to interview Governor Beshears. Talented, very popular man who's twice carried Kentucky, a crimson red state, as a Democrat. So he deserves a look. But if he walked down the street today in 49 other states, no one would recognize him.
Yeah, I think about Andy Beshear, and I keep bringing his name up as well. I've not had the opportunity to interview him. I hope to soon. The opportunity is open if you're watching, Governor. But the question is this. I hear you on name recognition. Nobody knew who Barack Obama was until he gave the speech in 2004. Even then, only people in politics did. Andy Beshear's had equal exposure. No one knew who Bill Clinton was in 1989. People who did said he screwed up the convention, so forget that. Even people who know politics know exactly what you know, which is that Andy Beshear has carried the red state of Kentucky twice as a Democrat, understands how to talk to rural, white, working-class Americans, and yet when you talk to Democrats, they never mention his name.
They will. Remember, Jimmy Carter put the Iowa caucuses on the map. They were nothing until '76. He ran in '76, saturated Iowa with him, and made the Iowa caucuses what they've done today, kind of national menace. But you can leverage a very small event into an awful lot of name recognition really quickly in this country.
When you talked to Andy Beshear, did you get the sense that he has the it or has the potential to have the it and should be given more, credit, thought, et cetera?
Sure, but it's really early, Leland. Gosh, I mean, you know, the old...
We got to find something to talk about. It's the middle of summer.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.